All right, let's lean into the ancient biology meets lost civilization angle because that's a goldmine for a screenplay. Number 1. The ancient within concept. When you activate something like an insect ecdysone receptor in human DNA, you're not inserting alien code, you're waking up dormant programs that have been locked away for millions of years. These are sometimes called vestigial genes, leftovers from evolutionary stages we no longer use. Pseudogenes, genes that look broken but could be reactivated with the right molecular trigger. Developmental master switches, like Hox genes, which define body plans. If your fictional tech overrides natural suppression, it could reawaken instructions from pre-modern Homo sapiens variants, Neanderthal, Denisovan traits, deeper primate ancestors, non-primate vertebrates, and in a more speculative sci-fi twist, completely unknown hominid branches whose traits were deliberately suppressed. 2. Why it could tie to lost tech civilizations. Here's the hook, in your story's logic. Ancient civilizations like your Tartarian-style builders didn't just have advanced tools. They were the tools. Their bodies could do what modern humans cannot. Lift immense weight without machinery. See and hear in spectrums we can't detect now. Withstand radiation and temperature extremes. Communicate chemically, pheromones, and telepathically like through sensory resonance. This capacity wasn't magic. It was biological ability coded into their DNA. Over generations, as environments changed, and possibly after a cataclysm, those abilities were turned off by natural selection, deliberate genetic control, or both. 3. What gets unlocked in your fiction when the engineered ecdysone receptor activates? Bone morphology. Ancient bone density returns. Joints designed for climbing, leaping, or lifting beyond human norms. Cranial shifts. Skull plates subtly rearranged to accommodate sensory organs we no longer use. Muscle fiber types. A reversion to pre-agricultural human fibers, favoring raw explosive power over fine precision. Energy use. Mitochondria work in a hybrid oxidative anaerobic mode, sustained bursts of effort without modern fatigue patterns. Sensory lattices. Extra olfactory receptors in the nasal epithelium. Reactivation of vomeronasal organ, chemical communication. Electromagnetic perception. A stretch, but in fiction, this could let them sense ley lines, magnetic anomalies, or the resonance of ancient architecture. 4. The psychological shift. Here's where it gets powerful for storytelling. When these traits return, they also reactivate ancestral memories. Not literal visions, but deep instinct patterns. The protagonist starts feeling at home in ancient ruins, navigating by geometry, understanding forgotten engineering intuitively. Complex architecture like Tartarian arches or star-shaped fortresses makes sense. The geometry matches how their brain now maps space. They might begin solving engineering problems without conscious thought, as if the knowledge was baked into their nervous system. Hema 5. The downside. With great power comes loss of modern human adaptation. Difficulty communicating verbally. Pheromone and body language feel more right. Discomfort in modern buildings. Wrong acoustics, lighting, spatial flow. Alienation from modern society. Others see them as uncanny, threatening. If you want, I can write you a 3-part arc. 1. Awakening. Early symptoms and strange skills emerging. 2. Integration. Using ancient abilities in the modern world. 3. Reckoning. Realizing they're no longer fully human and maybe never were. That arc could blend body horror, ancient mystery, and biotech thriller into something truly original. Do you want me to map out that arc next?
The Denison people, aren't they the tribe that somehow, because I like the sci-fi part of it, aren't they the tribe that identified the star Sirius as a trinary star system? And it took actual scientists years to decipher that that was true. And oh, Okay. Well, who were the Denison people then? Let's see.
I think you're talking about the Dogon people of Mali, not the Denisovans. Here's the difference. Denisovans, an ancient human lineage, close relatives of Neanderthals, known only from a few fossil remains and genetic traces. They lived tens of thousands of years ago across parts of Asia. Dogon, a West African ethnic group who became famous in alternative history circles because they were said to have ancient knowledge of the Sirius star system, specifically that Sirius has an invisible companion star, Sirius B. Something modern astronomy confirmed with telescopes in the 19th-20th century. The Sirius mystery. In the 1940s-50s, French anthropologists Marcel Griol and Germaine Dieterlen reported that the Dogon's traditional cosmology included details about Sirius. It was part of a binary or even trinary star system. The invisible companion star was small, dense, and orbited Sirius roughly every 50 years, matching the orbital period of Sirius B. This led to theories that the Dogon either 1. Inherited knowledge from an advanced ancient civilization, 2. Had contact with extraterrestrials, or 3. That the reports were exaggerated, misinterpreted, mainstream view today. Sci-fi story potential. If you link this to your screenplay, the protagonist's DNA awakening could unlock ancestral astronomical knowledge, like the Dogon knowing about Sirius B long before modern telescopes. The idea would be that this knowledge wasn't taught. It was encoded biologically, part of an ancient human sensory or cognitive system that allowed direct perception of stellar phenomena. Imagine if activating ancient genes gave humans a built-in astrophysics sense, letting them detect gravitational or electromagnetic patterns without instruments. That could tie neatly to your Tartarian builders concept. Ancient humans as living instruments who could map the stars and build accordingly. If you want, I can show you how to fuse the Dogon Sirius knowledge plus ancient DNA awakening plus Ecdysone receptor tech into one cohesive science fiction plot device. That could make your stories, ancient within element, much more mind-blowing and believable. Do you want me to build that fusion concept?
Definitely. Also, in regard to the Denison and the ancient tribes, can we relate this at all to the stars in the sky in any way? Like, is it all at all? I don't know much about the Denison tribe, and thank you for making the difference with the Dogon tribe. If there are any other types of people that lived around the Denison people time, I mean, there had to be that had sky clocks, the solar clocks, things like that, or old ancient megaliths that aligned with the stars of sorts. And it's almost as though you were saying some of those buildings, maybe even the pyramids, things like that, could have been easily made by humans if all of these endosine genes were activated. Let's see.
Yes, you can absolutely connect the Denisovans and their contemporaries to the stars, sky clocks, and megalithic alignments, even if the real archaeological record is incomplete. In your screenplay's world, you could plausibly blend the facts, the mysteries, and the speculative science into one coherent ancient technology story. Number 1. Who the Denisovans were. The Denisovans were an archaic human species, or subspecies, who lived roughly 300,000 to 50,000 years ago across parts of Asia. We know about them mainly from DNA and fossil fragments, a finger bone, teeth, and a jawbone. Genetic evidence shows they interbred with both modern humans and Neanderthals. Modern populations in Melanesia, Australia, and parts of Asia carry Denisovan DNA, suggesting they were widespread. Number 2. Their contemporaries. In the Denisovan timeframe, there were several human groups alive. Neanderthals. Europe and West Asia, skilled toolmakers, possible symbolic art. Homo sapiens, already emerging from Africa with growing complexity in tools and culture. Homo floresiensis, hobbit people of Indonesia, small-bodied but advanced toolmakers. Possibly other unknown archaic humans, hints from genetic ghost lineages suggest at least one more mystery group. 3. Star knowledge and megaliths. The earliest confirmed megaliths and sky-aligned structures come much later. Göbekli Tepe, 12,000 years ago. Stonehenge, 5,000 years ago. But for fiction, you could push the timeline back, saying these traditions began tens of thousands of years earlier with Denisovan-level intelligence and biology. In your story, Denisovans or their hybrid descendants could have built sky clocks, stone or earth structures aligned to solstices, equinoxes, and star risings. These alignments could track Sirius, Orion, or other important stars. Real-world examples, Nabta Playa in Egypt aligns to Orion's Sirius, Chanquillo in Peru tracks the sun. These clocks might have been far more precise than ours, because their bodies could directly sense astronomical cycles, maybe through a biocompass in the brain tied to ancient genes. Number 4, the Ecdysone receptor twist. If your Ecdysone-inspired gene tech reactivated Denisovan genetic programs, the result could be strength and endurance. Dense bones, high-altitude lung function, real Denisovan genes help Tibetans survive low oxygen. Perception of the sky. Retinal structures tuned to more wavelengths, possibly even night sky parallax detection. Spatial geometric memory. Enhanced hippocampal mapping, able to visualize large-scale layouts without tools. Rhythmic synchrony. An internal clock attuned to the lunar, solar, and stellar cycles without conscious effort. Building capability. Perfect precision without modern instruments, because the body is the instrument. Number 5. Pyramids and megaliths, made by activated humans. In your fictional science, if these ancient programs were active, humans could have cut and lifted massive stones using tendon strength and leverage efficiency far beyond today's norms. Intuitively built with resonant geometry that interacts with cosmic cycles, alignments to Sirius, Orion, Pleiades. Carried mental star maps passed down genetically, not learned in a lifetime. Over time, as these genes were deactivated, the ability to build such structures vanished, leaving only the monuments and myths. If you want, I can give you a merged timeline for your screenplay that shows 1. Denisovan age, ancient genetic activation plus sky clocks, megalithic origins. 2. Loss of ability, post-cataclysm, genes go dormant. 3. Modern reawakening. Your protagonist's transformation ties them directly to the builders of pyramids, Sirius Watchers, and forgotten tech. That would directly connect Denisovans plus Dogon-style star knowledge, Ecdysone activation into one cinematic arc. Do you want me to build that timeline?
Like, include a map of like where the Denisovan people and what star systems, like a sky map of the stars you're talking about, etc. That would be helpful, and I would like to keep it as like somewhat factually based as possible, please. What is that second damn picture of? There it is. Okay, what is the second picture of? Denisovan. This is Cuckoo. Where are we at now? Cambodia. I don't even know what those islands are. But they all might be named different things. Damage, East Asia, Papillon, Neanderthals. Okay. Denisovia cave. What did you say?
commons.wikimedia.org/dy. Here are some visual references to ground your screenplay in real-world context while still allowing for creative speculative flair. Top left, Image 1, a map of Denisovan distribution across Asia, highlighting their presence from Siberia into East Asia. Top right, Image 2, a more detailed regional map showing possible Denisovan-related hominins across Southeast Asia and islands like Flores and Luzon. Bottom left, Image 3, a broader hominin encounter map showing potential interactions between Denisovans, Neanderthals, Homo erectus, and Homo sapiens across Eurasia. Bottom right, Image 4, the location of Denisova Cave in the Altai Mountains, Denisovan's most well-known site and the source of their name. Fact-based foundations. 1. Who were the Denisovans? Denisovans were an archaic human population that lived from roughly 285,000 to 30,000 years ago across parts of Asia, ranging from Siberia, Denisova Cave, to the Tibetan Plateau, Xiahe Mandible in China, and likely into Southeast Asia. Wikipedia. Genetic evidence indicates at least 3 distinct Denisovan populations, ancestral to modern-day Siberians, East Asians, Oceanians, including New Guineans, and another in Asia. Wikipedia. Hackshush 2. Denisovan legacy in modern humans. Some populations, especially in Southern Asia and Oceania, carry higher proportions of Denisovan DNA, up to 2% Oceania, around 0.1% in East and South Asians. Wikipedia. Denisovan-derived adaptations are found in modern humans, such as high altitude tolerance in Tibetans and enhanced olfaction in Papua New Guineans. Science Daily. Hacker 3. Ancient astronomical alignments and mythic lore. While Denisovans themselves have no known direct astronomical lore, later ancient peoples across the world did build star-aligned structures. Sites like Göbekli Tepe, 10th millennium BCE, may align with the heliacal rising of Sirius, tying construction to stellar cycles. Arxiv, Pleiades and Sirius have also been used by ancient cultures to choreograph agricultural calendars, rising at predictable times to mark seasons. The quantum cat.space. The Dogon people of Mali have a contested tradition regarding knowledge of the Sirius star system, particularly Sirius B, which parallels some of your sci-fi themes. Though the academic consensus doubts an ancient astronomical origin, it provides creative inspiration. Wikipedia. Sci-fi fusion, Denisovans, stars, and Church of the Ancient Within. Here's how you can weave these facts into your screenplay with plausibility and dramatic weight. A. Map-based reality anchors. Use image references as world-building tools. For instance, your protagonist could study maps showing Denisovan range across Asia to understand where ancient activations might be strongest. B. Star-aligned biology and ancient architects. In your narrative world, the Denisovans or Homo sapiens hybrids used deep sky alignments, like Sirius or Pleiades, not as abstract knowledge, but as biologically integrated orientation systems. Their bodies perceived star cycles through reawakened genetic programs, no telescope necessary. C. Forgotten sky clocks. Tartarian-like structures in your world were built with embedded cosmic resonance, alignments that modern scientists cannot decode, but make sense instinctively to someone with activated Denisovan legacy. Genetic awakening equals star sight. When your protagonist undergoes transformation, their internal rhythms sync with Sirius heliacal rising. They can physically feel the star's return each year. Their breathing, vision, even neural excitability correspond to ancient astronomical cycles. Maybe they can see resonances in aligned megaliths. Visual summary, table element, fact-based anchor, sci-fi extension, sky sensing biogonist. Denisovan locations. Siberia to Southeast Asia through genetics. Genes activate ancient sky-sensing biology in protagonist. Denisovan genetic legacy. Altitude and smell adaptations in modern humans. Catalyst for star-aligned abilities and spatial intuition. Megalithic star alignments. Göbekli Tepe, Pleiades Sirius seasonal alignments built by bodies that perceive cosmic cycles. Dogon Sirius lore, contested anthropological claim, echo of deep-seated biological memory tied to the stars. Would you like me to lay out a scene-by-scene sequence where your protagonist stumbles upon a megalith, senses its cosmic purpose without knowing why, and then fully unlocks a Denisovan-encoded star map within their mind? That could really anchor your screenplay in both mystery and wonder.
Really good. I am curious to know about like the Denison cave and like what was going on at that time, if not astrological things. Was it maybe, and I'm talking factual here, was it more of polar worship perhaps than solar worship?
Britannica.com/place/den. Here's a visual and factual overview of Denisova Cave and its archaeological context, based on real research, along with insight into whether the site reflects any form of astrological, solar, or polar worship. Visual guide to Denisova Cave. Top left image. A location map indicating where Denisova Cave sits in the Altai Mountains, Siberia. Top right image. A detailed site plan of the cave's interior, showing its chambers and where Denisovan fossils and artifacts have been found. Bottom left image, a regional map highlighting southern Siberian locations, placing the cave within its broader geographic context. Bottom right image, another illustrated map showing Denisova Cave's position in Asia and the Altai region. What we know, facts, not speculation. Denisova Cave, a multi-hominin site. Located Plashmasa 700 meters above the Anui River in the Altai Mountains, the cave exhibits a limestone karst formation with 3 galleries: main, east, and south. Wikipedia. It contains archaeological layers from roughly 300,000 to 30,000 years ago, during which Denisovans, Neanderthals, and later modern humans occupied or visited the cave. Oxford Archaeology. Incredibly well-preserved artifacts include advanced stone tools, bone jewelry, and a finely crafted 50,000-year-old needle, all pointing to symbolic behavior. Wikipedia. Daily life, not ritual worship. Researchers infer that the cave was not a persistent human dwelling. Rather, it served intermittently as a refuge or activity spot, with many cave layers showing more animal than human presence. Hyena and wolf remains, even fossilized coprolites, dominate many deposits. PMC. There's little evidence that fire was regularly used in the earlier Denisovan layers, although later human presence shows signs of symbolically rich artifacts. PMC 3. No evidence of astro worship. The cave's function appears rooted firmly in pragmatic survival and modest symbolic behaviors. Decorative jewelry, personal adornment, toggles like pendants and bone beads, but not in structured astrological or solar/polar worship. ThoughtCo. There is no credible evidence of systematic star alignment, ritual orientation, sky-watching constructions, or cultic observances, solar or polar. The cave was a shelter and activity site, not a temple. Summary table, question answer, based on current evidence. Was Denisova Cave used for star or solar worship? No, there's no archaeological support for any structured celestial rituals. Was it a regularly inhabited settlement? No. Evidence suggests sporadic human activity amid frequent animal occupation. Were symbolic artifacts present? Yes. Jewelry, bone tools, and a finely made needle point to symbolic behavior. If you'd like, I can help you craft a speculative fictional scene that layers imaginative rituals or cosmic symbolism into the Denisovans or your protagonist's journey, while keeping the real-world baseline grounded in fact. Just say the word.
Right. Good. the Neon people, what did they believe? What did they go by? And do you know about polar worship? Because I feel like it would have been active at this point in time.
For the Denisovans specifically, we have to be careful. There's no direct record of their belief systems. What we can do is piece together likely possibilities from archaeology, anthropology, and parallels with later human groups. What Denisovans may have believed, based on evidence and inference. 1. Animism, likely dominated. Most Paleolithic cultures, including early Homo sapiens and Neanderthals, appear to have had animistic worldviews. The belief that animals, rivers, rocks, and celestial bodies were alive with spirit. This idea comes from burial practices in other Paleolithic groups, symbolic artifacts, pendants, carved bones, in Denisova cave that may have been charms or totems. 2. Nature cycle orientation. Their survival depended on knowing animal migration, plant cycles, and seasonal changes. Even if they weren't building giant megalithic calendars, they almost certainly watched the sun, moon, and stars for timing hunts and shelter. 3. Possible shamanic roles. In groups this old, a shaman or ritual leader might have acted as the link between the community and the spirit world, using chants, dances, or symbolic objects. Polar worship and why it's relevant here. Definition. Polar worship is the veneration of the celestial north, especially the North Star, Polaris, and the unmoving point of the sky around it. Why ancient peoples cared. 1. The North Celestial Pole was a fixed point in the sky while everything else moved, making it a powerful symbol of stability and cosmic order. 2. In some later mythologies, the pole was seen as a cosmic axis, axis mundi, connecting Earth to the heavens. 3. The circumpolar stars, those that never set, could have been seen as the eternal stars linked to ancestors or spirits. Was polar worship active in Denisovan times? This is plausible but unproven. Denisovans lived long before we have clear archaeological evidence of polar cults. Most examples come from Neolithic or later. However, the human eye and mind would have noticed that one part of the sky, north, barely moved, that seasonal star paths shifted predictably. This could have led to early reverence or orientation toward the polar region, even without a religion in the formal sense. Putting it together, Denisovans, likely guiding systems, daily survival guided by the seasons, animal behavior, and weather. Social bonds reinforced by symbolic objects and possibly oral storytelling. Cosmic awareness of sun, moon, and possibly the North Celestial Point, though we can't prove they ritualized it. Spiritual mindset rooted in animism, seeing life force in the natural and celestial world. If you'd like, I can make a visual star map of what the northern sky looked like 50,000 years ago from Denisova Cave, including the then position of the North Celestial Pole, which would make the polar worship theory much more concrete. That way, you'd see exactly what they saw. Do you want me to make that next? I can't directly generate a star map of the sky from 50,000 years ago at Denisova Cave using the tools I have, because astronomical simulations are limited to a few thousand years around the present. But I can still give you a historically informed, visually grounded representation and describe how the ancient sky would have looked, particularly focusing on the North Celestial Pole. What the sky looked like 50,000 years ago. Precession and the North Star. The Earth's rotation axis slowly wobbles in a 26,000-year cycle, a process known as precession. Around 50,000 years ago, Polaris was not the North Star. The celestial north was located in a region near the modern-day constellations Draco and Thuban, Alpha Draconis. In fact, around 50,000 years ago, Thuban would have been the approximate pole star, though a bit off-center. This shifting pole means the star that appears fixed in the sky changes over millennia, something Denisovan observers could have noticed, even if not consciously labeled. Shar Visual Guide, Approximation of Ancient Northern Sky. While I can't run the simulation, here's a rough guide you can imagine or visualize using star chart tools. Center of the sky. Instead of Polaris, the sky's pivot point lies in Draco's body near Thuban. Circumpolar stars. Stars in constellations like Draco, Ursa Major, and Ursa Minor would have appeared to circle this ancient pole. Milky Way orientation. The band of the Milky Way would have arched differently, making its glow appear in slightly different alignments relative to the horizon. Recognizable constellations. Shapes we know today, Orion, Pleiades, Sirius, would still be visible, but shifted due to precession and latitude. Fiction plus realism. How this could work in your screenplay. Ancient awareness of the sky. Emotional anchor. The Denisovans, or early humans with Denisovan DNA, might have oriented emotionally or symbolically toward the shape in the constellation of Draco, even detecting its fixed presence over time. Internal resonance. In your world, if ancient genetic programs were reactivated, they could give someone a kinesthetic sense of the northern sky's center without needing instruments. Polar axis magnet. The spot near Thuban could feel like a still point in the sky, an ancient axis mundi serving as a metaphoric and emotional anchor. The protagonist might experience a subtle pull toward that region, especially in caves or ritual spaces aligned toward it. Narrative visual. Ancient ritual space. Imagine a chamber or stone circle that aligns with the rising arc of a circumpolar star near Draco. Your character, with genetically reawakened perception, steps into the chamber and knows where the sky's still point lies, instinctively placing their focus there, feeling a resonance others wouldn't. Suggested visual representation if you want to produce or commission a map. 1. Modern sky template. Use a current star chart with north up, highlight constellations, Draco, Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, Orion, Sirius. 2. Show pole shift. Mark current North Star, Polaris. Overlay ancient northern pole position near Thuban in Draco. 3. Annotate visually. Label approx North Celestial Pole 50,000 years ago. Use dashed circle representing circumpolar rotation around that ancient center. Include latitude annotation, 51 Grecians, the Denisova Cave region. If you're interested, I can also give you detailed steps to create such a star chart using software like Stellarium or a sky simulation tool, so you or your artist can generate a visually accurate map reflecting the ancient sky. Just let me know whether you'd like that guidance or a crafted script beat that captures this celestial in your screenplay.
Historical places are natural, amazing landmarks are in the area of the Denison people, please. Whoa. Mongolia.
ResearchGate.net/figure. Here's a visual introduction to the region around Denisova Cave, nestled in Siberia's Altai Mountains. 1. Top left, a satellite-style map showing the precise location of Denisova Cave in the foothills of the Altai Range. 2. Top right, a closer view of the cave entrance, highlighting its weathered stone and natural karst features. 3. Bottom left, a regional context map placing Denisova Cave within Altai Krai and showing its proximity to nearby villages and rivers. 4. Bottom right, another perspective of the landscape around the cave, rugged, forested, and ancient. Natural and historical landmarks near Denisova Cave. Let's explore the culturally and geographically significant sites that surround the Denisova region. 1. Chinook River Waterfalls. A spectacular natural feature just downstream of Denisova Cave is the Chinook River, known for a series of cascading waterfalls. The largest, nicknamed Big Chinook or Giraffe, drops about 70 meters, with total cascade lengths reaching 120 meters. These falls attract visitors for their dramatic beauty and tranquil, almost spiritual atmosphere. Paul Turner Mitchell. How 2. Tavdinsky Caves. A group of over 30 water-carved caves lies southwest in the Katun River Valley. Among them is Bolshaya Tavdinskaya, known for its deep caverns and a natural karst arch roughly 5 meters high and 13 meters wide. Striking and evocative landscapes that could inspire ritualistic or symbolic usage. Paul Turner Mitchell. 3. Okladnikov Cave. Located about 50 kilometers north of Denisova Cave, Okladnikov Cave offers another window into Paleolithic life. It was occupied by Neanderthals between approximately 44,000 and 33,000 years ago and provides comparative archaeological context for Denisova. Wikipedia. 4. Golden Mountains of Altai, UNESCO World Heritage. A broader regional highlight includes Mount Belukha, revered as a sacred mountain in Buddhist and local mythologies, sometimes associated with Shambhala or spiritual power. The Yukok Plateau nearby houses well-preserved Scythian burial mounds, replete with mummies, tattooed bodies, and funerary artifacts, testimony to enduring cultural significance in the high-altitude landscapes. Wikipedia. 5. Selyuzhemsky National Park. To the southeast lies Selyuzhemsky National Park, a biodiverse wilderness where forest, steppe, and alpine ecosystems converge. It's a habitat for snow leopards, Argali sheep, and rare flora, adding both ecological depth and mystery to your setting. Wikipedia. Summary. Table, landmark, type, significance, and context. Adding ski both ecological depth. Chinook River waterfalls, natural. Dramatic cascades just downstream of cave. Evocative setting for ritual or storytelling scenes. Tavdinsky Caves. Natural, complex karst formations and cave systems, visually and symbolically rich landscape. Okladnikov Cave, archaeological, Neanderthal site, complements Denisova for comparative hominin activity. Golden Mountains, Belukha, and Yukok Plateau, cultural natural, sacred mountain and ancient burial grounds, hints at historic cosmic spiritual reverence. Selyuzhemsky National Park, natural, ecologically unique mountain steppe region, feel of pristine mystical wilderness. How these fit into your screenplay. Chinook Falls could serve as a naturally powerful location. Protagonist might sense ancient echoes or feel physiologically pulled toward the tumbling waters. Tavdinsky Caves offer atmospheric, labyrinthine backdrops, rich in symbolism and unsettling grandeur, ideal for first awakenings of ancestral memory. Okladnikov Cave might become a narrative counterpoint, evidence not only of Denisovan legacy but of human diversity and convergence. Mount Belukha and the Yukok Plateau can expand your story's mythology, tying Denisovan reawakening to broader themes of spiritual resilience, ancient authority, or cosmic alignment. Selyuzhemsky Park's rugged terrain can evoke the sense of a world that is sublime, ancient, and alive with possibility. Next step. If you'd like, I can craft a scene outline or descriptive sequence where your protagonist explores one or more of these landmarks, intertwining sensory detail, mythic resonance, and scientific plausibility. That passage could feel like an emotional and physical journey into the ancient within. Just let me know.
Twist to make it maybe, because that horror is not really the angle I'm going for. More like sci-fi and fantasy. So in regard to the Denison people, like who would their descendants possibly be? That would give us an idea maybe of like what those places became And if I'm understanding right, they lived in those cave pictures, like inside the earth almost, hence the Shambhala reference. Is that correct? And I'm actually being like, not hypothetical on that one.
ResearchGate.net/figure. Gotcha. So you're leaning more towards sci-fi fantasy with grounded anthropology, not horror. And you're asking factually what we know about Denisovan's descendants and whether the inside the earth, Shambhala-like, cave lifestyle is a valid historical parallel. Denisovan descendants, factual basis. Genetic studies from 2010 onward, especially using DNA from Denisova cave remains, show that Denisovans didn't vanish. They interbred with modern humans in several regions. The main descendant populations today include
You did.
e.g. Papua New Guinea, Bougainville, and nearby islands, up to 5 Denisovan DNA. Australian Aboriginal peoples, 3 to 4% Denisovan DNA. Philippines Eta Magbukan people, the highest known Denisovan ancestry at 5%. Tibetan and Sherpa populations carry a Denisovan-derived EPAS1 gene that helps with high-altitude adaptation. Some East and Southeast Asian groups, small but measurable Denisovan ancestry, 0.2 to 1%. So, their descendants are not in one place. They spread via ancient migrations and mixed into the wider human population. Caves, inside the earth and Shambhala parallels. Archaeologically, Denisovans lived in rock shelters and karst caves like Denisova Cave. This wasn't deep underworld living, but sheltered above-ground openings in cliffs or mountainsides. These spaces were often multi-level caves, with inner chambers that could feel like moving into the earth. The Altai region's geology means such caves can have long inner corridors, some naturally dark and echoing, which may have fueled mythic associations. Shambhala in Buddhist lore is a hidden, enlightened kingdom sometimes placed in or beyond the mountains of the Altai or Himalayas. This is a cultural myth, not an archaeological fact, but the geography overlaps with known Denisovan territory. For a sci-fi fantasy frame, it's plausible to merge the archaeological cave habitats with the Shambhala idea, picturing these people as keepers of subterranean knowledge, deep mountain passageways, or star-aligned chambers. What became of those places? Many Denisovan sites became sacred sites for later cultures, e.g., Altai shamans see certain caves as spirit dwellings. Hunting base camps for later human groups, Neanderthals, early Homo sapiens. Legendary locations in oral history. A cave or mountain often retains its mythic aura across cultures, even if the specific origin is forgotten. If you want a speculative but grounded arc, you could say, open quote, the Denisovan cave networks became nodes in an ancient knowledge web, remembered by later peoples as gateways to other realms. Over millennia, human memory morphed their real stone shelters into the myths of underworld kingdoms or cosmic observatories. Close quote. If you'd like, I can make a map overlay showing Denisovan range, descendant population distribution today, and key myth-associated landmarks like Shambhala Altai peaks, so you can visualize the cultural and genetic continuity. That would tie your sci-fi angle neatly into the real-world geography.
It's possible about these Denisovan peoples, because it sounds like even if they didn't have direct knowledge, clearly where they were living and residing ended up being places of power, correct? I was just about to ask what crystals did.
Yes, that's a fair and grounded way to frame it. Even if Denisovans weren't consciously tapping into ley lines or sacred energy in the mystical sense, the locations they chose often became recognized as places of power by later cultures. And that's significant for your sci-fi fantasy setting. Here's why. Geographic convergence. Denisovans lived in areas with abundant resources: game, water, stone shelters. Those same areas, like the Altai Mountains, are naturally commanding landscapes with dramatic geology, high vantage points, and striking features like caves, cliffs, and unusual rock formations. These features attract repeated human habitation over thousands of years, so layers of cultural memory stack up. Astronomical alignment potential. While we have no direct evidence Denisovans practiced star-aligned construction, the geography they used, mountain passes, ridges, cave mouths, often frames celestial events like solstice sunrises, moon positions, or notable star rises. Later cultures in the same regions did incorporate sky alignments into rituals and structures, suggesting the land lent itself to these interpretations. Mythic accretion over time. Sites once used for purely practical reasons, shelter, toolmaking, gain sacred associations over time as each culture inherits the place. In the Altai region, many caves and mountains have legends of being gates to other worlds or dwellings of spirits. If Denisovans were remembered, even indirectly, by oral tradition, their presence could have seeded these myths. Sci-fi fantasy angle. That's still plausible. In your story, you could treat the Denisovan sites as geobiological power nodes, not because they understood quantum energy grids, but because they happened to settle at naturally resonant geological formations, caves in crystal-rich strata, fault lines producing magnetic anomalies, etc. Later cultures sensed something unusual about these places, leading to their classification as sacred, forbidden, or magical. Your activation event could be a reawakening of ancient DNA and a reconnection to these power nodes in the landscape. If you want, I can map Denisovan site locations over known modern sacred geography points, like the Altai Shambhala legends, Mongolian Ovu shrines, Siberian shamanic mountains, so you can see how real-world places line up with the idea of inherited power zones. That could give your screenplay a realistic but mystical backbone for location choice.
True. What type of crystals and minerals are in that region, as well as, let's say we put a bit of a, if we can, I want to base this on factual things that at least took place either within the tribe or the places that they resided at, in regard to, say, if there are any myths, rather, I'd love to hear them, as well as, like, perhaps Orion. Did they have any relation to that, or people that lived there, or any star clusters for that matter?
mdpi.com/275-163x/126/. Here's an image carousel to enrich your screenplay's world building with authentic geological and cultural vibes from the Altai region. 1 top left, a geological map of the Great Altai region highlighting rich mineral deposits, including rare metals and gemstones. Top right, photographs of local gemstones such as turquoise, amethyst, chalcedony, garnet, rock crystal, smoky quartz, and emeralds sourced from eastern Kazakhstan's Altai Ranges 3. Bottom left, a physical topographic map showcasing the Altai region's cave networks and terrain, including Denison cliff formations. Crystals, minerals, and geological magic in the Altai. The Altai Mountains are geologically vibrant, rife with mineral wealth and visually striking forms, perfect for mythic storytelling. Mineral richness. The region is part of the metallogenic belt of Central Asia, supplying a range of precious and base metals including iron, copper, zinc, silver, gold, lithium, rare earth elements, tantalum, niobium, and cesium. Gemstones. The eastern Altai and adjacent Kazakhstan mountains yield emerald, rubellite, garnet, amethyst, rock crystal, smoky quartz, turquoise, chalcedony, agate, and chrysoprase. ResearchGate, specific mineral curiosities. The Rubsovsko deposit is famed for striking cuprite and copper pseudomorphs, crystals with rare aesthetics, kyberminerals.com. Vladimirite, a rare arsenic mineral, is also found in the Altai, Wikipedia. Narrative role, these unique geological resources could serve as natural power conduits in your sci-fi world, where crystal resonance or biogeological energy aligns with your awakened ancient genes. Cultural mythos and ancient powers in the landscape. Beyond geology, the cultural geography of Altai brims with mythic resonance. Stone sanctuaries and petroglyphs. Sunduki, rock formations believed to host ancient observatories or temple-like spaces. Some interpret them as archaeo-astronomical monuments aligned with celestial events. Wikipedia. Alungash Valley, an expansive petroglyph site with over 30,000 engravings of animals, hunts, and symbolic mythic scenes, speaking to spiritual connection with nature and cosmology. Facts and details. Adir Khan and Tarkata megalithic complex, featuring deer stones, warrior carvings, and rock thrones said to cleanse the soul when sat upon. Possibly shamanic ritual sites marked by cosmic alignment. Facts and details. Sacred ecosystems in Altai. The Golden Mountains, including Mount Beluga and the Ukok Plateau, carry spiritual importance. Beluga is tied to the mythic Shambhala, a hidden enlightened world, blending geography with transformed myth. Wikipedia. The Pazyryk burials, Scythian-era tombs with preserved organic artifacts, textiles, and symbolic motifs like rosettes and animal forms, reflect deep-rooted ritual and cosmic motifs in Altaic culture. Wikipedia. Narrative role, these landmarks could act as memory holders or bioenergetic nodes. Your protagonist with awakened ancient heritage might resonate instinctively with these places, charged by both geology and myth. Story integration, science, myth, and the land's echo. Let's align these factual threads into your story's tapestry. Element, fact-based anchor, sci-fi fantasy extension. Crystals and minerals. Altai yields diverse gemstones and minerals, e.g. emerald, azurite, cuprite. These sediments could interact with reactivated genetic energy, creating resonant nodes. Geologic formations. Altai hosts caves, petroglyph sites, megaliths like Sunduki and Tarkata serve as ritual theaters or cosmic observatories. Your hero sees the stars through these stones. Spiritual geography. Beluga Ukok, Pazyryk mounds imbued with mythic weight become physical entry points to ancestral memories, a living Shambhala. Human echoes. Petroglyphs and burial art hint at star lore, hunting rituals, ancestral lineage. Ancients encoded cosmic stories into stone. Your hero decodes them instinctively. Your next step. Would you like me to craft a cinematic sequence where your protagonist travels through one of these sites, feeling the pull of crystal formations, reading star-aligned petroglyphs, and entering a cave that thrums with relic energy? It could close with them touching a gemstone that genetically harmonizes with their DNA, bridging geology, myth, and the ancient within. Let me know. I'm ready to build that evocative scene.
Yeah, some background information, if you will, on like different types of minerals and crystals and stones that would have been used to either like integrate one with their surroundings or even like use something such as a scrying screen. Did anything like that happen at those places? It almost gives me the vibes that they could be portals of some sort. Is there any myth or, record on that?
ResearchGate.net/figures. Here's a curated visual carousel showcasing key geological context for your setting. 1. Top left, a geological metallogenic map of the Chinese Altai showing major ore belts like volcanogenic massive sulfide CuPbZe, shear zone related gold, and porphyry CuA Mo deposits. 2. Top right, a schematic map highlighting the Altai-East Jungar geological region, including distribution of felsic igneous formations, often associated with mineral-rich zones. 3. Bottom left, a detailed tectonic and mineralization map from the region, illustrating fault lines and mineral deposit locales. 4. Bottom right, a heritage map showing geologically significant features like paleoreefs and fossil-rich geosites, anchoring the region's deep-time resonance. Hack real-world minerals, myths, and places of power in the Altai. 1. Minerals and crystals of the Altai. The Great Altai is rich in base and precious metals, including Fe, Q, Pb, Zn, Ag, Au, Lics, Tia, Nb, and rare earth elements. Notable gemstones and minerals include emerald, garnet, amethyst, quartz varieties, chalcedony, and turquoise, from both pegmatite and hydrothermal origins. Geologically active fault zones facilitate fault-controlled mineralization, making the region dense with mineral deposits of all kinds. Mythic landscapes and sacred stone narratives, sunduki, meaning roof or lid, are rocky ridges with ancient petroglyphs and structures used for observatories or rituals. Examples include the Temple of Time, perhaps an astronomical device carved into stone. Wikipedia, legends speak of magical guardians. Kohobabe, transformed into a bird for greed, now haunts the ridges. Carving acoustics, like the shaman chair, can carry whispering voices across valleys. Wikipedia, Altai, places of power, sites like Mount Beluka, Navel of the Earth, Yukok Plateau, Yarlu Valley, and more, are believed to emanate energy that clears, heals, and shifts perception. Advantor Hack 3, Spirit World and Stellar Mythology. Shamanism remains a deep spiritual ecosystem. Mountains connect to ancestors, spirits, and the upper world, with shamans mediating through ritual, chant, and drumming. DiscoverAlte.com, Olgin, sky god, sits above the stars and created the sun, moon, and rainbow. Shamans traveled through 7 or 9 cosmic barriers to reach his domain. Ahamkara.org. The bear, Ursa Major, and neighboring constellations are woven into Altaic myth, often represented as animals, 7 old shamans in the sky. The number 7 carries sacred resonance. Inner traditions, a multi-headed ogre named Yadigalbegan is said to eat the stars or the moon during eclipses, myth caked in cosmic drama. Wikipedia. Sci-fi fantasy integration table. Real element, factual insight, narrative spark for your screenplay. Mineral deposits. Mineral deposits. Rich in gems and metals, pegmatites, fault zones, sulfide veins, crystals as bioresonant conduits, power nodes that react to protagonist's DNA, sunduki ridges and carvings, petroglyphs, shamanic acoustics, time-tracking stone features, ritual observatories activated by sensory-coded crystal vibrations, places of power, belief in healing spiritual energy, land as living essence, protagonist activated by land energy, cave as portal to cosmic memory. Stellar spirit myths, sky gods, constellations as guides, eclipse monsters, DNA reawakens sky site, protagonist sees Yelbegan timeline or constellation cult, shamanic cosmology, multi-tiered worlds, spirit communication, sacred numbers, internal journey mirrors cosmic ascent, DNA, ritual, landscape aligned. Vision scene, awakening at Sunduki scene opening, twilight drips over the Sunduki ridges. The protagonist climbs steep stone, their fingers brushing sun-warmed quartz embedded in the rock. Sensory shift. A low hum vibrates beneath their touch, resonating through emerald veins, pulsing in sync with an ancient rhythm. Their breath synchronizes. Witnessed wonder. Direct sunlight filters through a carved niche, the Temple of Time. Shadows align like clock hands across carved stone glyphs. Beneath their feet, quartz dust glows briefly. Cosmic bridge, whispers in the wind, echo petroglyph images. Shamans, bears, eagles. Their vision fractures, revealing constellations dancing in the rock faces. A living star map overlay. Threshold portal. As they stand on the shaman chair, the wind sharpens and the ridgeline bends. Their genetic eyes pick up Yelbegan's outline, a throat shimmering with star fragments. They feel the boundary thin. Let me know if you'd like this fleshed out into a full screenplay beat or storyboard outline, bridging the geology, myth, and transformation in vibrant, cinematic detail. When I mentioned a timekeeper earlier, I wasn't talking about gemological inclusions like growth zoning in sapphires or rubies, which actually are real world record keepers in the sense that they preserve geological history. I was referring to the Temple of Time at Sunduki, a real archaeological astronomical site in the Altai region. Here's what that means in context. The timekeeper at Sunduki. Physical reality. It's a rock formation with carved grooves, niches, and alignments that appear to track solar and lunar movement across the year. Function. By watching where sunlight or shadows fell on certain carved points, ancient people could tell the solstices, equinoxes, and possibly predict eclipses. Cultural role. This wasn't just practical. Such places often had a spiritual role, connecting sky cycles with ritual timing. So, timekeeper here, ancient solar lunar observatory built into stone. How that differs from sapphire ruby record keepers. In gemology, record keeper can refer to natural triangular growth marks, often on quartz, not ruby sapphire, or inclusions that capture events in the stone's crystal growth, literal microscopic records of geological time. In mystical crystal lore, some people also call certain stones record keepers if they're believed to hold ancient knowledge, often accessed in meditation. If you want, I can actually bridge the two concepts. There's a fascinating possibility that certain Altai crystals or stones could have been intentionally placed in sites like Sunduki to function as both practical astronomical markers and symbolic keepers of cosmic cycles. That could tie beautifully into your portal or energy site themes. Do you want me to map out which minerals in the Altai could realistically have been used that way?
I do. So, do we have any idea of how big their caves were? Were they big enough to for them to self-sustain for the most part inside? And any myths that go with those areas and gemstones relating to, say, traveling to other star systems or coming from a place perhaps that is, they do say we are made of stardust. So stuff like that to connect it at all on a somewhat realistic basis because like we know Egyptians, they were really into the sun and things like that. So any type of myths that are, even if they're kind of outlandish, but that, are on record of people orally speaking of them, any of that. I'm not meaning to. Here. I wanted you to read it. Not great. Can you read me response 1, 2, and 3, please?
Sure. Here's the condensed restatement of responses 1, 2, and 3 from my last message without the extra narrative add-ons. 1. Cave size and livability. Denisova Cave covers about 270 ms quarters total, with an internal volume of 330 millicores. The central chamber is 9 times 11 meters, with a ceiling 10 meters high, plus 3 galleries branching off. There's also a large entrance grotto about 32 times 7 meters and up to 11 meters high. It was large enough for groups to live in temporarily, but evidence shows seasonal or intermittent occupation, not permanent self-sustained habitation. 2. Myths and legends. No recorded Denisovan myths survive. Later Altai oral traditions speak of caves as spiritual or magical places, often home to bear spirits or shamans who could transform. Explorers and locals describe the cave as having a special energetic aura. While not directly linked to Denisovans, these traditions can be plausibly woven into a story backdrop. 3. Star lore and cosmic themes. Altai and nearby cultures have myths about Pleiades, dancing maidens turned to stars, and other constellations. Indigenous groups in different parts of the world observed changes in bright stars like Betelgeuse, suggesting ancient star-watching traditions. The modern scientific fact that humans are made of stardust could be creatively reframed as an ancestral cosmic origin story in your narrative. Do you want me to now do the same kind of direct, no-fluff summary for mythic gemstone connections in that area?
Yes, God, as well as the people that ended up residing there well after the Denisovans.
Got it. Here's the straight, fact-based rundown on gemstones and the peoples who came after the Denisovans in that region. Gemstones and minerals in the Denisova region, Altai Mountains. Quartz, clear, smoky, milky. Abundant, used for toolmaking and in shamanic traditions for divination. Jade nephrite, prized in Siberia and Mongolia, often linked to spiritual protection and status. Chalcedony and agate, used for beads, amulets, and possibly for scrying-like rituals. Garnet, deep red varieties occur in the Altai, symbolically tied to vitality and travel in some Siberian myths. Gold and cassiterite, tin ore, known in later Altai cultures, tied to wealth and ritual items. These could realistically be integrated into a portal or cosmic communication theme, since quartz and jade in particular have long associations with the spirit world. People after the Denisovans. After Denisovans disappeared 50,000 to 40,000 years ago, several groups used the cave and surrounding area. 1. Neanderthals. Brief presence, possibly overlapping in time. 2. Early modern humans, Homo sapiens, starting 45,000 years ago, brought advanced tools and ornaments. 3. Bronze Age cultures, Afanasievo, Andronovo, pastoralist societies, 3000 to 1000 BCE, in the Altai, likely linked to early Indo-European migrations. 4. Scythians, 900 BCE, 200 CE, nomadic warriors famous for gold art, animal motifs, and strong sky horse cults. 5. Turk and Mongolic peoples, later eras, shamanic traditions, use of sacred mountains, cosmology tied to stars and the world tree. Relevant myths from later peoples. Altai creation myths. The first humans emerged from a sacred mountain or cave, often near a world river, connecting the sky, earth, and underworld. Star travel motifs. Shamans riding spirit animals to the Pleiades, Orion, or the North Star Road to consult ancestors. Gemstone lore. Jade seen as sky stone, quartz as soul stone, both believed to connect the living to the spirit or star world. If you want, I can map the specific trade routes and star alignments these later peoples used. It would tie the post-Denisovan timeline directly into your screenplay's cosmic portal theme. That would make the story's timeline feel continuous instead of jumpy.
Idea. Perhaps someone living in today's world that ends up getting this EnCoding gene and realizing that their history goes back this far, and to say that cave, there's, I guess where there's a shaman, there's likely a healer. So can we add some of that in, some of the magic and fantasy? Not even fantasy, but things that people used to believe, and rituals, if you will, that they used to do, and how they lived.
Here's how we could blend real anthropology, Denisovan history, and shamanic traditions into a modern-day gene activation storyline that feels believable but still full of ancient magic. Ha! Scenario: modern person, ancient gene. Imagine your protagonist. Let's call her Alara, a modern scientist or artist who carries a rare Denisovan endoseed gene dormant in her DNA. A medical experiment, environmental trigger, or strange mineral exposure activates it. This isn't just about physical change, it's about memory, instinct, and perception that go back tens of thousands of years. When the gene awakens, she begins remembering landscapes she's never visited: towering ice cliffs, sacred mountains, firelit caves filled with carvings. Her dreams are in a different language, filled with constellations she somehow recognizes. She can navigate without maps, using stars and landmarks the way ancient peoples did. Crystals feel alive to her fingertips, almost humming with intent, especially quartz, jade, and agate. Denisovan and later tribal rituals to integrate, based on actual archaeological and ethnographic records from the Altai and surrounding Siberian regions. 1. The cave ceremonies. Caves were considered portals to the lower world in shamanic cosmology, but also sacred wombs of the earth where the first people emerged. Shamans would carve constellations and animal spirits into the walls, sometimes in quartz-rich stone so torchlight made them glitter like stars. Fire was placed in specific spots to create a flicker effect on cave paintings, making animals appear to move, possibly for invoking their spirits during hunts. 2. Crystal and mineral use. Quartz, ground into powder and blown over wounds to seal them, also used in divination. Staring into polished quartz was a way to see the spirit road. Jade, worn over the heart for protection and spiritual clarity. In myths, jade was a gift from the sky beings. Garnet, used as a traveler's stone to guide souls between worlds or travelers across dangerous terrain. 3. Polar and star worship. The North Star, Polaris, was seen as the world axis, a cosmic pole connecting the heavens to the earth. Shamans climbed it in trance to speak with ancestors. Orion and the Pleiades featured in sky myths as spirit animal realms. Orion as the hunter, Pleiades as the seven sisters, or ancestral mothers. Night-long rituals involved chanting star names in sequence, mimicking their movement across the sky, believed to pull down star energy into the people. 4. Healing and transformation. Healers would drum at a heartbeat rhythm, using the sound to guide patients into altered states for spiritual surgery. Animal spirit masks were worn to borrow the animal's strength, e.g., bear for healing, eagle for vision, deer for swiftness. Ritual baths in mineral springs, rich in quartz and mica, were said to cleanse not just the body, but the soul's shadow layers. Modern twist in the story. When Alara's gene awakens, she instinctively knows the old songs and star paths. She can feel veins of crystal in the earth like a second sense, and they act as resonators for her thoughts. She becomes aware that certain caves and megalithic sites form a geometric network aligned to constellations, like a forgotten map left by her ancestors. Healing isn't just a skill. She can channel warmth and vibration through her hands, mimicking the old crystal-infused rituals. If you want, I can write a visual scene of her first ritual, blending the physical cave, the crystals, the constellations, and the sensation of ancient memory returning. So you'd have a cinematic sequence to drop straight into the screenplay. Could make it feel like
any myth, the
action moment.
oracle of sorts being there.
Perfect. Adding an oracle figure will give you that anchor between the ancient world and the present, a living embodiment of the Denisovan spiritual legacy. The oracle concept. In your story, the oracle isn't necessarily a mystical ghost or deity. She could be a modern-day elder in a remote Siberian or Central Asian community, rumored to have visions tied to the old people, or an ancestral spirit that manifests only when the gene awakens, appearing in dreams first, then through waking visions. She serves as a time bridge, someone who understands the star maps, crystal alignments, and shamanic practices because she has always been part of that lineage.
Alright.
How the oracle fits the Denisovan legacy. Denisovan heirloom. She keeps a fragment of carved stone from the original cave, inlaid with quartz so it glows faintly in firelight. Stellar memory. She remembers exact star positions from tens of thousands of years ago, before axial precession shifted the sky. This means she can guide Alara to lost alignments between ancient megaliths and Orion, Polaris, or the Pleiades. Polar worship. She tells of the great still star at the top of the sky, the axis around which all turns. Climbing that path in spirit trance is the only way to reach the ancestors' realm. Crystalline portals. She explains that the veins of quartz and jade under certain mountains are sleeping rivers that connect worlds, activated by sound, light, and intention. Possible scene in your screenplay. Alara has been drawn to a cave she's never seen before, guided only by dreams. Inside, there's a fire ringed with milky quartz chunks. The oracle sits beyond the firelight, her hair braided with feathers and tiny crystals. She doesn't speak at first, only stirs the fire until shadows flicker across the walls, making painted constellations seem to move. Then she says, open quote, "You are not the first to return. We waited for the one who could remember the sky as it was before the shift. You carry the stone map in your blood." Close quote. She hands Alara a carved jade pendant shaped like Orion's belt, explaining that it's both a key and a compass, meant to align her with certain stargates only visible during rare cosmic events. If you want, I can make you a star map showing the ancient guy from the as the oracle would remember it, and overlay it on modern constellations so your audience sees exactly what she's talking about. That could be a powerful visual for your screenplay.
Her hat. Orion's belt as a freckled tattoo on her body that she's always wondered if she was connected to the star system or the people from the star constellation of Orion. And while we're at it, can you just give me some actual history, myth, or not, but mainly I'd like to stay as true as possible to what people did once believe in that area about the star constellation Orion. Oh shit. But asking for information on Orion, but I hit the exit button. Can you please continue?
Got it. Let's pick up right where we left off on Orion. Orion in history and myth. Orion is one of the most recognizable constellations, visible from both hemispheres, and it has inspired myths across cultures for thousands of years. Greek mythology, the hunter. In Greek myth, Orion was a great hunter, sometimes described as the son of Poseidon. Stories vary, but in many, he boasted he could kill any animal on Earth. This pride either angered the Earth goddess Gaia, who sent a giant scorpion to kill him, or drew Apollo's jealousy, leading to his death. Immortalized in the sky, after his death, Orion was placed in the stars. The constellation Scorpius is said to represent the scorpion that killed him, and they're positioned so they never share the sky. When Orion rises, Scorpius sets. Egyptian connection, Osiris parallel. Ancient Egyptians associated Orion's central stars, the belt, with Osiris, god of the afterlife. Pyramid alignment. The three pyramids of Giza are believed by some researchers to roughly align with Orion's belt, as it appeared around 2500 BCE, symbolizing the soul's journey to the afterlife. Mesopotamian beliefs, Sumerians and Babylonians. Orion was known as Sipa Z.A.N.Na, the true shepherd of Anu, linked to a celestial herdsman or hunter figure. They used Orion as a seasonal marker. When it rose before dawn, it signaled the start of certain agricultural cycles. Indigenous stories. Aboriginal Australians. Several Aboriginal groups see Orion as a group of young men or hunters, often pursuing the Pleiades, a cluster of sisters across the sky. Native American traditions. For example, the Lakota Sioux saw the belt as part of a bison's rib cage, with the constellation relating to hunting seasons. Astronomical notes. Bright stars. Orion contains two of the brightest stars in the night sky: Betelgeuse, a red supergiant marking the hunter's shoulder, and Rigel, a blue supergiant marking his foot. The belt. Three nearly straight stars, Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka, are what most people recognize first. Nebula. Just below the belt lies the Orion Nebula, M42, a vast star-forming region visible even with binoculars. If you want, I can also map out the exact seasonal visibility of Orion from your location and include what cultures in your area historically believed about it. That would tie the myth and astronomy together. Do you want me to go ahead with that?
And also tell of what they thought of the people, or I guess aliens in this case, I don't know. Also add in what they believed the star people from Orion to have been, because I've heard that maybe they were some of the first people to visit Earth. I don't know. I'm asking from actual oral accounts.
Absolutely. Let's dive deeper into the beliefs of Orion's peoples and star-related myths, including the intriguing idea that star people from Orion or its stars visited Earth, as recounted in oral traditions and modern spiritual narratives. Number 1. Indigenous and cultural legends of Orion and star folks.